This video isn't going to be very funny or jovial. Some of you might not even find it really entertaining. This is one of those videos where I need the catharsis. Like I've mentioned in some previous videos, whenever there's a lot on my mind, a lot going on up here, behind the scenes, if you will, I just lay everything out for you guys, and maybe some of you can relate with this. Maybe just by the title itself. Um, but before I get into anything, I need to thank some people for really, really helping me over the past few weeks. The people at anxietyzone.com, especially the chat room. You guys really, really helped me through a lot of this. You made me feel like I wasn't completely alone. You gave me lots of tips and ways to begin to overcome this. And without you guys, I'd be in a much darker place, so I really appreciate that. My best friends in the world, Owen and Sarah, who took me in for a few days, made sure I was going to be okay, comforted me when I was panicking and all of that. Without you guys, I'd be in a much, much darker place, so thank you too, from the bottom of my heart. And to all of my friends and fans out there that have expressed their sympathies to me, I'm greatly appreciative of you as well. Um, Definitely a lot of you made me feel like I'm not alone in this. And my girlfriend Emily, she's been a great help throughout this as well. Just knowing that she is there, just the thought that she is there has made a lot of things in my head better too. Um, but basically, I'm experiencing feelings that I haven't felt before. And the feelings that I'm currently going through that I have felt before are much stronger. The feelings I haven't really felt before, at least this often, are anxiety. And the ones that I have felt for a long time but are now getting really, really strong, depression. Um, it's safe to say that I've been pretty depressed for the past few years. Ever since I left home, I've been pretty down. I've been losing interest in things pretty quickly. Even at times, making videos is a bit of a struggle for me. Um, but lately, things have gotten really, really bad. And where to begin? I had my first panic attack about a month ago, and it scared me shitless. Absolutely shitless. I just got done having a fight with my ex, who I live with. Um, and I started feeling these really bad chest pains, and my heart was beating and beating rapidly, 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 and my chest started feeling really tight, and I thought I was going to die. Like that was the only thing on my mind is, oh my fucking god, I'm going to die. So for the next few days, the pain subsided a little bit, but they were still there. I didn't even really want to move because I was afraid if I did just the right amount of physical exertion that I would drop down and die. That's how serious my feelings were. And I just could not get it out of my head. I just constantly thinking about my chest, my heart, my breathing, everything. Hyper aware. Going on Google, searching this and that and this and that over and over and over again. And the things that I was reading was making me more and more anxious, more and more scared. And eventually, after about a week, I went to the emergency room. Completely panicked and scared out of my mind. I was crying profusely the entire time. And they did an EKG and a chest x-ray, and they found nothing of concern. The doctor said it was more than likely anxiety and stress related and sent me home. But that didn't really satisfy me because for the next 2 days my chest was still hurting. No matter how much I tried to relax, no matter how much I tried to stop worrying about everything, I just couldn't. It was like I was being constantly bombarded with all of my fears and worries about everything. And I'll get into those fears and worries a little bit later. So, Owen and Sarah took me to the emergency room again 2 days later. They gave me an EKG and blood work, and they said everything was fine. But they had me talk to a crisis screener, the therapist there at the hospital. And the main reason they had me talk to the crisis screener is because one of the nurses asked if I had considered self-harm recently, and I said yes. I was honest and I said yes because I was in such a dark place in my mind that I was thinking of reverting to the things I used to do in my youth, or my youth, like talking teenage years, to ease some of my pain. So they had me talk to one of them. and we went over everything. Her main question was, "What's got you stressed out?" And the main thing has always been having no health insurance, especially when I have health anxiety, and being broke most of the time. That's been one of my major things right there. I know that I'm not necessarily going to starve. I mean, I've been graciously allowed to live here by my ex for as long as I have, and she does help me out with money occasionally, but lately she hasn't been helping me as much. So that's been two huge worries on my mind. Where I'm going to live, because I can't stay here forever, and she knows that, and I know that. I'm probably going to be moving back with my mom and sister, and they could use some help around the house as well, so that's fine. And my health, always. That's like the one thing that I just keep focusing on over and over. And I wasn't like this 3 weeks to a month ago. I was not like this at all. But she mentioned that what is happening is I might, all the stress, and there's been a lot, I mean a ton of stress in my life for a long time. She said that maybe it is built up to a point where it's finally just broken. And she said, in her opinion, from everything I told her, we talked for about 45 minutes. It was a good long talk. She said that I'm definitely going through some kind of anxiety. She gave me a pamphlet about generalized anxiety disorder, and I was reading through all the symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder and health anxiety, and I'm like, wow, that's me right there. The chest pains, the tightness, the hyperventilation, the shortness of breath, the constant the constant panicked thoughts, the worry, all of that stuff. And then she said that I'm more than likely depressed, and that wasn't very shocking to me considering some of my behaviors over the years. Um, everything was fine with those tests, and the therapist gave me a list of things, and then I began to panic about, being able to see a therapist or a psychiatrist or something like that to help me with my head because yeah, I don't have health insurance, but she gave me a list, and some of them have like a sliding scale or are free. Given my monetary situation, though, it is a bit, it's a lot on my brain. Um, so, a few days after that, I'm here alone a lot in this house. Christina, my ex, is usually gone doing whatever, work, out with other friends, that kind of thing. And I'm here alone a lot. And since my dog died, it's been even harder. Because there's absolutely, except for the cats, there's no one here but me most of the time, and I don't get out much because I don't have the desire to get out much. I don't really have much of a desire to get out and face the world as much as I used to. So I woke up and I felt terrible, worrying about money, where I'm gonna live, my health, insurance, all of that kind of stuff. All the major stressors started piling on and piling on, and I tried calling my mom and sister, and who I also have to thank because my sister and my mom have been a great help throughout this. More on that later. But even that wasn't making me feel better. Talking to Emily wasn't making me feel better. And I was really getting to the point where I'm going to be honest, where I was slowly contemplating suicide. Because all of these thoughts in my head, all of this worry and all this dread and all of this fear were just overwhelming me. So I broke down and got out the piece of paper they gave me and called one of those 24-hour crisis hotlines. And they didn't really say a whole lot to make me feel better. In fact, they seemed pretty robotic, but they can only do so much. They're not doctors or anything. But after that, I went downstairs and I played some drums and got myself active, forced myself to do something other than sit down or lay down or whatever, and I started feeling a little better. I did. But pretty consistently over the past few weeks to a month, I've just had all of these, I've just been worrying and worrying and worrying. And it just seems like there's nowhere for it to go. No matter what outlets people tell me that I should use. All the advice I've gotten on Anxiety Zone, or from some of you guys, or from Emily, or from my mom and sister, or from anybody, I take that advice and I try, okay, try diverting your attention, try thinking about this. The more I try to think about other things, I just think about the worry and and all of that stuff, and it stresses me out, and I just can't break it. So I bit the bullet. My mom sent me some money to make a doctor's appointment. This doctor was accepting new patients, and I paid 117 bucks to go and see this doctor. And I told him about my chest pain, the tightness, the sadness, and all that kind of stuff. And another thing I should mention is that I've cried more in the past month than I've cried in the previous 22 years of my life combined. I used to cry maybe once every 6 months, and I've cried on almost a daily basis. So that's something else that's kind of freaked me out. Absolutely freaked me out. I told him about my rapid heartbeat, and he checked my glands and all that kind of stuff. And he ordered a blood test to make sure I have no thyroid issues, and an echocardiogram, like a picture of my heart. And I got the blood test done. That was $36. And I'm waiting on those results. I get my ECG on the 21st, and we'll see where that goes. But the thing that once the people from the hospital called me and told me it was going to be 695 whatever dollars, I'm like, and then the panic started up again. So it's a constant cycle. But I'm at the point where I'm hoping, and I will do this because there are resources out there, even if you don't have a lot of money. I've been told that there are ways to get help if you have things going on up here. I'm really hoping that I can nip this, because I grew up in a family that had certain mental issues. My mom, I believe, is bipolar, and she has anxiety issues. So does my sister. My dad had anger issues, and he was depressed. My aunt is a really uneven mood. It runs in my family, and I used to see how miserable these afflictions would make them, and I'd look at myself and go, well, whoa, I'm thankful I don't have any of that. And now, just a month ago, just like that, out of nowhere, I never worried about any of this kind of stuff before. I never had, I mean, I would worry about it, but then I would just go on the computer and do something, or I'd play my drums, or I'd go out and get a bite to eat, or I'd go take a walk, or I'd work out, or I'd pet my cat. Those distractions no longer work because it's a constant thing. This never, and the cruelty of whatever the hell this is to just come just like that. It's nerve-wracking, and it really hurts, because why now? Could it be a buildup of all that stress from all the fights with my ex and the money worries and I mean, I even worry about my dental health because I don't have insurance for dental. I mean, all of this stuff. Like, is it just all of that finally manifesting itself as generalized anxiety disorder or something? Could the depression be on top of that? I'll never know until I talk to a professional. But, I mean, I'm sure people that are going through it could offer me, like, advice as to what they've heard, because I know a lot of people, that's the biggest thing. Where did this come from? Because it almost seems like I don't have triggers. I'll just be sitting here and I'll feel my pulse, like right now. Okay, like right now it's not racing, but I'll just be sitting there and sometimes my chest will start hurting and my pulse will start racing, and then the panic comes because of those. Not because I'm thinking of something. Or maybe it's just a constant worry. I don't know. It's so fucking confusing and I hate it. There's a lot of stuff from my past that I discussed with that therapist at the hospital that I've left pretty bottled up inside. I've talked to people about it, but nobody on a professional level. And if anxiety disorders can be brought on by constant stress, then I have nobody to blame but myself, in a way. Because there is a pretty major incident that happened in our family back in 2009. It started in 2007. And it ended up with my dad in jail and my mom very, like, more unstable than she already was. I've never really spoken about this publicly on YouTube. My sister was molested by my father, technically her stepfather, from the ages of 9 to 18. And she made light of it in 2007. When we were living in Texas, she moved back up north and made light of it because it finally got to her enough. And I didn't believe her at all. And I actually testified for my dad. He went to jail in September 2007. The trial was in February of 2009. I remember testifying for him, and I was there when they found him guilty of the 10 counts. And I wouldn't find out concretely until about 2 years later that she was completely telling the truth. I mean, I'd rationalized it before then that, you know, my dad was an awful person. My dad, he was mentally abusive, very physically abusive. He was an alcoholic. He popped pills. He was on drugs. He set our house on fire just to get us out of a neighborhood and had all of our shit destroyed just to get a fresh start somewhere else. Very, very, very angry man. He would snap just like that. He hung around with very shady people, neglected us, not constantly, but I rationalize it as, you know what? Oh, and he had a big gambling problem too, and it was back when online poker was legal, and he gambled away virtually all of my mom's money, and that's how our house was foreclosed on, our car was foreclosed on, our 26-foot camper was foreclosed on, and we were pretty much fucked. But I pretty much rationalized it this way: even if she's not telling the truth, it's kind of for the best that this guy is gone, because he was going to be around for a long time to come, and he just had a major back surgery, and on top of being his usual abusive self, verbally, mentally, that kind of stuff, he was going to be just a gigantic burden, and that's not bad. I'm not saying that I didn't mind taking care of him, but always frivolously spending my mom's money, being incredibly profligate with her money that she worked her ass off for while he just sat there. And abusing us and abusing her and all that kind of stuff and all the awful things he did. There was more than one occasion where the cops were called and somebody in our family said, "Kim, if you don't leave him, I'm going to kick his ass." And there's even one I found out a little bit later that my mom was forced into the situation because my dad threatened to kill her if she took us away from him. But I basically said, you know what, it's probably for the best that he's out of the picture. But I did find out 2 years later via his appeal while he was in jail that he did actually do what my sister accused him of, and that killed me because, you know, I didn't believe her. And I had to find out in the worst way. In his appeal, he wasn't arguing the fact that any molestation happened. He was arguing how often it happened. So, and then that sent me into another spiral of depression. So, given all of that and all the other stressors I've been going through with my ex and being so unsure of my future, you know, finding myself broke most of the time, no insurance, seemingly no hope, maybe it's finally all piling on and breaking through. If you guys are still here to this point on the video, for those of you that have gone through panic attacks, I do have a couple of questions. And some of the people from the Anxiety Zone forum have answered these for me, but I want to get as many answers as I can. How do your panic attacks manifest? And if you don't want to say it publicly, you can message me on Facebook or on YouTube or whatever. What symptoms do you experience when you have a panic attack? Because sometimes I don't know if I'm actually having one because I don't... When I think panic attack, I think like hyperventilating, and I don't always do that, but I have other symptoms like tingling in my hand and numbness, usually right in this area. What symptoms do you encounter, and do you get them just randomly, and do you get some symptoms sometimes and some symptoms other times without those symptoms coming up? Because sometimes I'll just be sitting here and my hand will start tingling, and I'm not panicking. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit about the shit that stresses me out because I can't get it off of my mind, but these things will just randomly come on. Does that happen to you? I mean, do you still feel the symptoms even if you're not having a panic attack? Because it doesn't really help my anxiety, my health anxiety very much when that kind of stuff happens. And I have so many questions, and there's a good chance that I might be moving pretty soon, so I don't want to start therapy just to be uprooted and go somewhere else if I can afford it or if I find a sufficient kind within my means. But I mean, I just want to get all the answers I can because, in all honesty, my biggest fear is that this will get so out of control that I might, and I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything, but you know that this shit in my head might get so out of control that I might see suicide as a reasonable alternative. And I don't want to get to that point. I do think I'm getting a little better with it. I've only had this for a little bit, and maybe, you know, maybe the more I search and when I get some professional help, they'll find that I have something other than anxiety. But from what everybody's told me, from every symptom I've read about, and I've talked to dozens of people about this, that they're pretty sure that I have it. Even though you have to have the symptoms for 6 months to officially qualify as having GAD, or generalized anxiety, or health anxiety even, I believe. But I think I can get through this. I have to get through this. I mean, there have been so many people that have gotten through this and encounter this enough times where it's just kind of second nature, and they go, okay, Panic, you are not my master. I don't need you. Get the fuck out of my head. I'd love to do that. Love to do that. I'd love to get this shit out of my head for good. And maybe when I get my ECG, if my heart is shown to be healthy and not causing these chest pains, because that's another big worry, then, you know, maybe my anxiety will quell a bit more. I don't know. I'm so confused and lost, and I just don't want to lose complete control. I've lived for 22 years without all of this anxiety, but this is new to me. But like anything else, it can be worked on. There are people out there that can help, and I hope that my lack of insurance and all of that stuff and general funding doesn't, because I've heard a lot of stories about people being, you know, ending their lives because they couldn't afford therapy or, you know, all this stuff. But yeah, so that's what I've been going through. It's why I haven't made a video in a while. But hopefully I can get back into the swing of things here with YouTube and keep things going. I didn't really talk much about my depression, but yeah, it's kind of scary when you go from not having this to having it and crying once every 6 months or whatever to crying every day. It's I'm rambling. If any of you are bold enough to share your stories about this, I'd be more than happy to read them. The next 6 days I will be at my mom's visiting, my mom and sisters, so I don't know how much activity I'll be engaging in here on YouTube, but your stories and your reassurances are greatly appreciated. And I'm going to try and stay as strong as I can through all this. So hang in there with me.